you adjourn?
I was just letting you know.
Call the meeting to
Welcome,
order
you here.
of the Port of Oswego Authority. I'll begin with introductions, beginning with Bill.
Bill Scriber, Port of Oswego.
Ken Stevens, member.
Fran Enright, member. Tom Schneider, member.
John Kara Smith, member.
Jerry Brown, member.
Mike Shanley, well, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, Mike Shanley, attorney. Linda's here also, since I have to leave early.
Amy Tressetter. We'll start the meeting by approving the minutes. It's Exhibit A. Anyone has any questions, amendments, corrections? Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any, well, take your time, take a look, and then let me know. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have a presentation this evening. Bill, would you like to introduce?
Yeah, this is Philip O'Brien of Castor Root. He's been in discussions with Port of Oswego over a year now. He runs a stevedoring company that also markets ports and operates. That's not why he's here today. With that, I think I'll just let you go ahead and give your presentation and move out of your way.
All right, well, thank you very much for allowing us to do this. I understand it's not something that's typical, so I appreciate you going out of your way to at least hear us out. And after that, to determine if it's something that you believe is the same fit that we see from our side for the Port of Oswego. So John, a bit earlier I heard you say telling a good story, right? And that basically is something that caught my ear, right? I believe that, and if I can ask you to be lenient, my presentation basically starts with the Port of Oswego. That's why we're here. And I believe that there's a really good story to tell here. And there's a narrative that we can develop together in promoting it. That's where Castelloop hopes to come in. If these are all from your website or from the internet, basically saying there's a lot of good here. You know? Over 120 vessels a year. That's something to brag about. And I've personally dealt with, I'll say personally, 30 ports along the St. Lawrence and the Great Lakes and the Eastern Seaboard. And I'm continuing to develop on my side. That's where my background comes from. I believe that there's a good story to tell here that we can promote and that we can make known. You guys are doing, you've got awesome infrastructure, awesome capabilities, and perhaps that's not known outside. It's a good kept secret, right? And that is where we come in and we say that there are a lot of advantages of using the Port of Oswego. Your direct rail capability. Okay. You have mobile conveyors, forklifts. These are all things that you guys are aware of, but the market not necessarily is. 100,000 square feet of warehouse space. As a stevedore, I beg for storage space everywhere that we are. And you have it in your backyard. You have the capability of handling bulk and break bulk, heavy lifts. You've got 400,000 square feet of storage space. Plus you've got another 15 acres from what I understand that's readily available and that's continuing to develop. There's your direct rail. You know, this is what you all get together monthly to discuss to make this place win. That's what your vocation is, or that's what I understand that it is. That's your plan for the future. I was happy when I arrived and Bill showed me, I said, that's one of my slides that I stole from you guys, right? So in the products that you handle, not everyone knows it. You handle aluminum ingots, recycled materials, steel, rebar, billets, mill scale, agricultural products such as corn, soybeans, project cargo, heavy lifts, cement. Not many ports have that much capability and versatility. There's some of the couple of the pictures of you guys in operation. That's something that's close
Maple Ridge
to
project.
home for me.
Maple Ridge project.
Right? Some of your, so, like I said, this is all stuff that you're aware of, but when's the last time it was set out to the market? That's the question. When's the last time that it was presented? And why is it being kept as a secret? Is it because you're already full and you don't want any more cargo? If such is the case, you're doing phenomenal, because you can get quite a bit here. And it's the reputation of how it's handled is excellent, right? But if you have the idea to foster that growth, there is that potential there. That's where I think that we come in. Castelloop is a young company with an old soul. So what does that mean? All of us are former, you might have heard the name QSL, the Quebec Stevedoring. They're the ones promoting the Port of Ogdensburg. We're all former from that company. I was there for 20 years. I was Vice President of Sales and Marketing there. And the company grew, and out of its natural success became a very, very large company. And I didn't see myself there anymore, whereas the family-owned company. They were going in a certain direction that, you know, the owner can do whatever he wants, and it belongs to him. It's great. But it didn't represent the values that I had grown up with. So from there, well, I had to take a 1-year non-compete, and after that, I didn't leave with the objective of starting a stevedoring company, but I saw so much potential. All of a sudden, you were landed with these two huge behemoths, Logistec and Quebec Stevedoring. Logistec just bought Gulfstream Marine in Houston. And the little guy was not being taken care of. It was come on our schedule as opposed to, hey, we'll treat you like a customer. It's been, I would be lying if I said it's been an easy ride, because we're the first new stevedore in 40 years. So in the last 2 years, I've had, in this part of the world, I've had people come and see, is this legal? Are you allowed to be a stevedore? Well, yes, it's been 3 generations, but we are allowed. It's not easy, because you have these 2 giant players that have basically divvied up the market. But every customer that has, I'll say, taken the chance of coming with us has given us repeat business and has stayed with us. This year alone, Castelloop will have handled over 1 million cubic meters of wind energy. My background is wind energy. We also handle all the bulks that you can imagine, from salt to gyps to fly ash. We're also involved in bridge work. So we've also been doing distribution centers, rail distribution centers in northern Ontario. So Castelloop is basically a partnership, a 3-way partnership. Obviously, Phil O'Brien can have some ideas of grandeur, but you need to have a bit of muscle behind you to be able to sustain those ideas. So I enlisted Group Summerbrack, whom are a stevedore in their own right. They are 2nd generation stevedores. And Group Belmar, which is an over-dimensional carrier, and also are landed with an American division as well. They are specialists in handling wind, basically in transporting wind all over North America, as well as, well, they're $100 million companies, so they have a whole bunch of other things I'll spare you to hear. But these partners basically are minority shareholders in Castelloop, but they're investors, and they also give us a lot of debt. So therefore, for us, yes, we're an investment for them, but at the same time, whenever I use them both as mother and father. It depends on the day who's mom, who's dad, But it gives us, whenever we have a requirement, where we're able to expand and still deliver on our promise. Casteloop is a very aggressive company. We're very driven, and that's anyone that you'll meet in our company of 9 has that persona. It's something that unites us to evolve, and you have to have that fighter instinct for where we are. I believe that there's a way to be a fighter and be polite, and hopefully I'm at the table talking with you today because I am a fighter and because I don't give up when people say no the first time. So as our network is expanding, to give you an idea, in this year we've actually developed new land. It's still green here in this picture, but we've picked up 5 acres at the port of Bécancour. We're doing wind energy in Trois-Rivières. This Saint-Catherine, we were doing bridge girders of 100 tons each, so we did that for the last year and a half. Rogakuna, we did some wind energy. Matan, we've been doing wind energy, and we have some upcoming steel products that are coming in. Port Hawkesbury was our first sale. Casteloop opened November 2016, and December of the Grunt, which was the first week of December, we had an agreement with them to market their location. Toronto, we've been doing salt ships then. St. Catharines, Ontario, we've been doing wind energy. Sudbury, we've been doing wind energy as well. And Picton, we've been looking at a whole bunch of different aggregates and different commodities. Our services, when I said we had an old soul, is all of the people in our team have between 15 and 35 years of experience in the stevedoring industry. So we have a very strong operational team, which we have been hired by the likes of Rio Tinto to basically do benchmarking of their operations. We've also been hired by Ridley Terminals in Vancouver for doing benchmarking services there as well. So we offer not only stevedoring, but you have to keep everyone busy as well. So our consulting services have been a good backbone as well. That's our operational team. Fred, whom you've met, is our Director of Operations. And Fred is 64 years young. I've asked him to retire at the same time as me, so we've got another 25 years together. But he's basically pushing the entire operational team. We've also made some new additions, and those are that's a 400,000 square foot lot. It doesn't look that big when you look at it with the wind turbines on it, but
Well, I have that right up here.
yeah. So,
And most of it's concrete.
right. So, I was telling you some of the bridge girders that we handle, and this is well, you know, everyone has their own baby. Right? So these grabs for me are my baby. We got them about 3 weeks ago, and we've already done 2 ships with them because we were fed up of renting, and people, they wouldn't work as good as we would like. So we've invested in some grabs, and Casteloop is continuing to grow like that. So there has
Is
to
that potash you put down there?
That's actually Egyptian salt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's really not as white as I'm accustomed to, but salt has been phenomenal this year with the strikes in Goderich and so on and so forth. So it's made a lot of import salt. So stevedores have been very happy. It's busting at the seams on the river right now. These are some of the stowing of towers. It gives you an idea how tight it can be, and you're not allowed to scratch those. So that's part of the challenge in itself. There's a large part of our program is we're developing, we're starting from zero. So to do that, well, we've got a budget for development. We do try to be, if we come up and we do the exact same thing that our competitors do, well, they're bigger, stronger, they have more finance, and so on and so forth. So we have to build a better mousetrap to be able to develop. And that's what we've been doing. So we've been inventing equipment. Obviously, it's certified, and but to try to give customers an edge. So, because any price that we would bring down, our competition can bring down lower, right? We're not in it to be a rebate stevedore. We're there to try to bring the value. And what is the value is to determine what are the challenges of the people that we deal with, what are their challenges, and how can we address those. The same way that if you sit around the table, you'll identify the challenges that you have a lot better than I could from as an outsider. And perhaps we're able to bring value in those things. The initial discussion for the discussion that we had, what we were looking at is, if you ask me, my number one is if I can operate, I really think that we can bring value in something. You guys already have a good operation, and you don't need that. However, I spend $300,000 a year in having people doing sales and marketing for our company, just in salaries. And I spend another $150,000 a year in having them promote our network. And they are at all the events, they have all the contacts with the people of experience, as well as I. I'm part of the marketing team. I'm more a salesman than an operational person, but honestly, the last 24 months have proved that I have to be a lot of other things too. So it's been a steep learning curve. But that being said, if we're there and we're present, it doesn't jeopardize you in any way that we're marketing you as well. Hopefully it brings advantage. There's a 6-month turnaround time between when I start talking, unfortunately, and when stevedore starts happening. I wish cargo turned around faster, but it doesn't. That's the reality. However, we are at all these locations, and we're marketing in Europe at the Break Bulk event. We're in Houston at the Break Bulk event. We're at all the wind shows. We're hosting a suite this Friday in Montreal for the Grunt Club, which is the first Friday of December, where you have a whole bunch of people from Europe that are in, from the maritime industry and gather. We're also attending third week of January, the Marine Club, which is in Toronto. And we're at a whole bunch of other events, plus we do one-on-one marketing as well. So yeah, it costs about $150,000 a year just doing a steep marketing program like that. But to give you an idea, Castello's sales have gone up 500% this year. And next year, that was an amazing contract that helped a lot. And when you start with not much, it's easy to tell you percentages. So you have to be honest and humble to it. But it's been a phenomenal success. Now, where do we go from there? We're flexible, but we think that you have a beautiful location that has a lot of opportunity. Bill was mentioning the investments that you're planning as well. There's a lot here to talk about. Unfortunately, I talk too much. All right, so I'll try to keep it down to that. But what a nice story that I would be pleased and honored to tell other people. Right? This was the information I was able to get as an outsider. If our team, if you see value in our team partnering with you, then we'll have insider information. Imagine how good our sales pitch can be from there, and how we can make this story be known to other people. You've worked for it. I just want to try to deliver it, and I believe in it. I drove 7 hours today to come and see you and to tell you that for half an hour, and I'll drive 7 hours back, because the rest of the week's going to be pretty busy. And I think it's worthwhile. It's not the first time I come, and hopefully not the last. It's pretty much, to give you an idea on the equipment that we designed, it's the first time in North America that nacelles were being handled in tandem with 2 reach stackers. You won't see another picture of that unless it's ours. Okay? So that was an invention that we got approved by Vestas. Came from us. And do we have any engineers inside? No, we don't. We hired some out. We had good operations that had good ideas. So we were able to save them short cranes there and save them a bundle of money.
And just let the board members know, short cranes are very, very expensive. Very expensive.
What's that?
Short cranes are exceedingly expensive.
Short cranes?
Yes.
So, and to give you, while I'm gonna toot my own horn, these were the longest blades ever handled in North America at the time that we took that picture, which was in the spring. We're handling some again today, 220 feet long, right, 67 meters. They're gonna be even bigger by next year. So we're already gonna be surpassed by then. Loop has for me, that's really something that's important, and yes, it's okay to make marketing presentations, so on and so forth, but there is a background on health and safety that is, I want everyone that comes to work with us, that's willing to get on with us, that they return in the same shape or form that they arrived in, if not better, when they leave. And that for me is, we won't take any chances on that. And with that approach, well, 2 years incident-free. And it's something that we care about. Yes, we're there to try to develop, and we'll push hard the note. We'll push hard on production, and so on and so forth. But first and foremost, we have to make sure that those people are there tomorrow. And the last cool thing is we actually own stevedoring.com. Took 4 months of negotiations with the Russians, but we got it. All right. Is there, for me, that's the presentation of who we are and how we would go about promoting Oswego. Now, are there questions that you would like me to clarify?
I certainly have got a bunch of them.
Perfect.
Well, let me see if I understand what your objective is. Your objective is to come in and work with us and provide us the entire gamut of operational works regarding the port, right from stevedoring to planning on how to rig a good pick, planning on how to.
I'd love to do that, but that's not available to us.
It's not what?
It's not available to us. Your operations, you've got very good operations here.
Yeah, we do.
And from the start, it was known and agreed that you were going to continue to do your operations and do the good operations.
Well,
Can I do this for clarity purposes, because I think we could go horizontally a lot of ways. Could I just ask what your business model is, and understanding where there's a public setting, so that if there are things that are asked you don't want to disclose, just say that you don't want to disclose them in this setting. But the business model in terms of where you derive your revenues from, because you have talked about operating ports, but you've also talked about marketing. I don't know what percentage of your business is what, and what the direction is, or particularly what the proposal is. And I think that goes to 10. And before you can, ask a question, I'd just like to understand the model a little bit better. So if you describe your business model to me from the standpoint of, the 3 major drivers of your business or revenue, what would they be? And of those, say there were 3 lines of business or 2, what are you proposing relative to us? I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. That gives me a little clarity, because
Yeah,
you know how I like to get
Yeah,
going.
that was my question too, is where do you feel we
In
fit
other words,
in?
we already have the ILA, so we don't need your stevedoring.
That's great.
Isn't the stevedores a union separate from the ILA?
No,
No.
They're not.
no, it hasn't.
Actually, at the
Yeah,
Port of
that's what I
Oswego,
did.
I'm the stevedore.
You're a stevedore.
No. Stevedore is only the person who operates the labor force. That Port of Oswego, we're the last operating port on the Great Lakes, which means we call labor assigned, okay? That's what we do, okay? I just want to clarify, what his proposal to us has been, after I discussed with him months ago, was simply not to run as a stevedore at the port, but to use his resources to bring in new
I'd
business.
like him to explain it, but,
Okay,
Well, now, how about the business? Is it,
yeah, I'd still like him to explain it.
Yeah.
let me go one step further and then,
I know, but you're asking questions. that
do
will come
we eat what we kill, or do we share our business with you? How does that work? In other words, if we establish business, if we get business without your aid,
It's
does
yours,
that belong to us?
absolutely,
Okay.
and it's written in black and white.
So in other words, you'd like to come in and share business with us if you bring it to us?
That's correct.
Okay.
Anything that we would work on, we would explore with Bill, saying, Bill, are you guys already working on this? And if he says yes, well, then we're not gonna work on it.
Okay.
If he says no, and he says, go ahead, develop this for us, then that opens up the door for us to develop.
All right, that eliminates one point that I had a question about. Go ahead.
And you're getting to 1,000 feet, and I just wanted to start at 10. So, because one will lead to the other. Could you answer my question, is that fair?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Casteloop has 3 locations. Right. So we're stevedore and a terminal handler.
Mhm.
What does that mean is a port authority will own the land,
Mhm.
and we will go in and either take a short-term or long-term lease,
Mhm.
attract cargo there, operate it. We will hire the labor, we will bring in the equipment, and we will take the responsibility for production and for the care of the labor.
And across the market of ports, that model is probably used in 20% of the marketplace, 50%,
I would say
70%?
95%. Okay?
we're the last one in the Great Lakes to
Yep.
do
Okay.
to do our own.
Yep.
So for us,
That is true. That
Right, right.
thing we went to in Toronto last week was a real eye-opener
Right.
for me.
And so you're only a couple of years into this, what percentage of that market do you have?
the percentage of the market that we have as far as
Stevedoring
stevedore,
and terminal handling? And you don't have
well,
to answer
it's a
that if you don't want
500, it's a $500 million in annual sales if you do the St. Lawrence, Great Lakes, and the Maritimes,
Mhm.
as far as stevedoring goes.
Mhm.
And that's what you're gonna combine of the FMTs, the Logistex, QSL, Valport, a couple of small ones.
Mhm.
So that's about 500 million in sales. This year, we're gonna be at 9 million.
Thank you.
Now, to get back to your question.
Right, two more lines of business.
Right. On our side, we also do operational benchmarking services. Why? Because we have, we hired some extensively experienced people, and we're able to go into businesses
Right.
on their stevedoring side, where it's not their core business, but part of their business,
Right.
and we're able to
Let's say
refine what they're
It's
doing.
a contractual, operational assessment when coming out with recommendations for efficiencies, whether under some, Lean Six Sigma or a Six Sigma process or some other process improvement, value stream mapping, whatever it is that you perhaps see, and then you would do that based on a contingency of savings or revenue generation, just in that, not what you're proposing to us, just in that line of business model.
That's
Is that a
correct.
fair way to?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's better said than I. but-
Yeah, I'm sorry, I kind of do this for like
And
So,
then,
okay.
full logistics planning, what does that mean? Well, example, Marmon are a tower manufacturer for the wind industry. They're located near Tualagat. And all of a sudden, they want to get their towers to market a lot more competitive. So we'll go out and we'll explore chartering vessels for them. We'll take care of the stevedoring on both ends. Even if we're not the stevedore, we will negotiate on their behalf and basically give them a turnkey solution. It's a way for them to save having a logistical experienced department. And the marine industry is different from a lot of their other core businesses,
Mhm.
so it's a way of protecting.
Okay, so you have one sort of direct servicing model to professional consulting and planning models,
That's correct.
and they're what, 70, 20, 10? Percentage of revenue?
70, 20, yeah, that's fairly accurate. Now, what we're offering. or
Probably does
proposing-
is a bit different because it's a hybrid.
That's correct, okay, so here is unique, as you said, you are uniquely stevedoring yourself. And however, we're already marketing our locations
Mm.
where we are at. We're already doing it. And having a bigger, I'll say, inventory of locations to sell for us brings additional value where we are at.
So essentially, you kind of come in and act as a marketing arm, but then, you can't really market something outside of it having a correlation to a strategic or business plan, which, right, because you don't want to then be marketing things that you can't do. So I think that part of what we're missing a little bit is sort of the global strategic plan that you would design a marketing plan around. So have you worked with any ports relative to strategic planning as part of, you say logistics planning and benchmarking, and once you're benchmarking, you're kind of looking at some strategies, and logistics certainly strategical, but in terms of putting together a business plan and then having a marketing plan that correlates to that, does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
And I'm saying that with all due respect. Like I said, my background is sales and marketing,
Mhm.
and it has been sales and marketing, a very large network.
Mhm.
And in so doing, unfortunately, I'll use the word unfortunately, in our industry, we're about 20 years behind as far as business plans
Mhm.
and as far as sales and marketing goes.
Mhm.
On the other side, it's unfortunate because there's a lot of modern, very pleasurable, eye-catching things that are going on. But they don't apply very well to us.
Mhm.
So in our industry, we're not looking for the big shiny thing. We're looking for results. And the best that you can have is one-on-one interactions with people.
I think you're taking my concept of strategic planning and, extrapolating it into some, bold growth plan. All I'm saying is, this is who we are, here's our purpose, here's what we do, here's what we set out over the next 3 years to achieve. And therefore, if that's what I set out over the next 3 years to achieve, that means that there's a market segment that I'm going to target as part of my marketing plan, and a certain revenue stream that I seek to derive. And when I then backed up the strategic plan with some financial pro formas. So, is that a little clearer to what I'm?
Absolutely.
So therefore, is there not a correlation between the marketing plan and the strategic plan? And absent that, would you be able to lend any services to help them develop the strategy in connection with the marketing? Because that's what I'm seeing as perhaps an opportunity.
If you're asking what markets that we think that we can tap into, I think steel is something that is not something that's and obviously the tariffs are going to be something that change every 3 weeks there. So, but that is something that we had identified. It also identified with our contacts in the wind industry that there was some nice potentials there. Keep in mind that Ogdensburg do compete with you, and there is some business there that you could potentially handle if you desire. So there are those things that are there readily available. And after that,
And
use
then-
your expression, that's 10,000 feet.
Yeah. What do you do to manage conflict of interest and exclusivity?
In the contract proposal that we presented, we presented it in you guys being the father figure in this contract. Therefore, case-by-case basis, are you working on this or not? If you're already working on it, it's written black and white, it's yours to.
That was more along the line of Ken's question, which was, who owns the stream of business. What I'm saying is if you represent other ports and you're representing us, and therefore you can direct traffic one way or the other, what you do relative to exclusivity of marketplace and conflict of interest between the relevant clients, that you provide safe
I
access.
apologize if I didn't catch it on the first
Yeah.
time. Okay, but I got it now.
Yeah.
We don't have any locations that are in competition geographically with where you are located.
And would you market then to do that, or would you agree to some form of exclusivity? Further question for further down the road in the contract,
I think
That's
that's
1,000
something,
feet.
yeah, I think that's something
Planting an
I can answer you.
Yeah.
It's something that we would be willing to explore because there's not too many locations around,
Yeah.
put it that way, that for us, that we would be,
And either way, you have to avoid
Divvying
conflict of interest.
that's correct, okay?
Okay.
So we're transparent in this, and what we're trying to say is, do you need a marketing arm that promotes your point? If not, perhaps, if not us, I would recommend that you have one. And make that investment.
Okay.
Because right now, you've been able to attract all this cargo just by sheer talent. And that's great. What's the next step? That's where we come.
You see any markets that need to be built right now in this area that would, you know, help us increase our shipping? Is there a market that, are you in, let's say, are you in Europe? Is there something that they have over there that we should have over here, or you see emerging markets, I guess is what
Oh,
I'm-
they're freight. I would like to call them freight.
There's a great deal of freight that goes by,
Great,
freight, cargo,
yeah.
okay, that goes by. And unfortunately, if you look at that, okay, this is the app that accesses all the ships that go by, it's mind-boggling, the quantity of ships, and you say, geez, the small percentage that we touch. Right? And for Casteloop, it's normal, we don't have the amazing infrastructure that you have. Right, so we've pick and dabble at things where we can make a difference. Now, Ken, to answer your question directly, it's not gonna help you out, but the big thing is gonna be offshore wind in a year and a half. So I'm currently setting us up in New Bedford, Massachusetts for that. And
Blue water one, you mean, not in the Great
actually,
Lakes?
Vineyard is gonna be the big one. And they're the ones who are gonna take the terminal in New Bedford. So I have to somehow convince them that we can stevedore forward. I'm also currently in negotiations to acquire a US-based company to help us with our growth. So we're going in that direction. That's,
Okay.
offshore is gonna be very strong. Now, steel, if you would have asked me a year ago, I would have told you, I think we can bring you 50,000 tons of steel with our contacts. Today,
50,000 is not much.
it's not much, but if you put it at $30 a ton on average,
Yeah.
totally handled,
Okay.
What we don't have now.
yeah.
One thing I've always wondered is why there aren't more paper and pulp mills along this part of the United States on this side of the Great Lakes. What's the problem there? I don't get it. We've got tons of forests.
Yeah. It's a fair question. The paper market, I'll give you a stevedore's perspective, all right, layman. I'm not a professional in paper, but I am a stevedore that's handled his fair share. Okay, is that a fair answer? You ask me any question on stevedoring, I think I can answer, okay?
Yeah, I think we kind of need to stay on topic.
Right, but Ken, to tell you, just to at least answer that one, the paper, forest product paper market, what they haven't done in the last 30 years is invest in their business.
Because of the technology and.
Well, when the profits were good, they would basically extract all the profits and give it to the shareholder. But they didn't commit to rebuilding and modernizing their industry. And it makes that a stevedore like me, I could have gone after a contract of 300,000 tons of pulp a year in the tank, and I decided to pass. Because that 300,000, and I'll invest $4 million in machinery, it could be gone like that.
Really? Philip?
So I love the 300,000 tons, but it's not something that we can count on because they're not modern facilities as in Europe they have reinvested.
Okay.
Is that a fair answer?
Yeah.
Philip, the question. All right, we decide to go, cast a loop. What's this process? Run me through, one, is there a retainer involved in this when we go ahead? And two, you get to know what this port is. And I agree with you, I believe this is a jewel right here. You know, we're a deep water port right on the lake, and I've been selling this ever since I've been here. So, how's it work? How do you get paid? How do we get paid? I mean, you go out and find car, run me through an example, would you?
Just don't use exact numbers,
Yeah.
because I'd like to hold
Yeah.
you with the chairman's approval to exec session to talk details.
Yeah.
And then.
No, I'm talking just vaguely,
Yeah.
don't even have to have numbers, just give me an
It's a
idea.
revenue contingency.
All right, so the basic contract that we drew up together. First step is we identify a potential cargo or a potential commodity that we believe could be well serviced here because of geographic, because of your direct rail, because because of your many reasons, we've identified that. We turn around and we speak with whomever Bill designates to speak with, if not him, say, are you already working on this? Have you seen this opportunity? Yes or no? And the answer can be yes or no. The next question is, do you want us, this is what we see, do you want us to develop or not? Keep in mind, and I've been doing this a long time, success rate, not for Castellou, for a stevedore, is less than 5%. I'm full disclosure here, that's what it is,
Okay.
okay? So I've seen businesses where I was exclusive in my former life. And I had to still do, and it was sure the cargo was coming. There was two customers you had to charge. And 2 years into it, I had done 56 quotations on a cargo that I was exclusive, and geographically it could not go elsewhere, and I still had to do 56 quotations. That's what screws up your numbers in studio. That's the reality. So I continue in your process. We've agreed. We build up rates. We get approbation that that works. We market it. We deliver it. And we book it. We're all happy. We bring it here. We develop. We're the contact with the customer. We do a share of profit on that commodity. After your operations have been covered. So therefore, you never lose. Right? We share on the profit side. That is where we make money. How can I afford to be on commission basis just in case? Well, because it doesn't cost me much more to be talking of the Port of Oswego when I'm talking about the rest of the network.
You already have the infrastructure in place. So the point where you could lose at this level is promises that can't be made, kept. So, and that's why we're referencing what are we doing strategically relative to what are we doing on the marketing front. And because you cannot then, have a sales arm out there that's sort of creating a vision of what we can deliver, and then turn around to find out that we can't. So
that's a fair statement. But put it this way, every customer that we speak with has to deal with us probably elsewhere. And we have a very young reputation that I have to preserve. And, I wasn't happy with like probably none of you, with what happened at your port. And let alone my young company being somehow associated to that. I only have but one name. And if you ask around in the industry, well, my competitors don't like me. But I know what I'm talking about, and I don't like being associated to anything else but that.
You're saying in the representation of our brand, you would be protecting your brand because it has to work in the false brands to deliver.
That's correct. That's what you call a partnership.
And we would not accept anything we can't do.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
I cannot sell things that I can't deliver.
Right.
Today, Fred is not here
Yep.
with me today and he commands a lot more respect than I. And he's not here because but case in
It
point.
was good enough and the correct answer.
If you would like to stick around for an executive session for any further detailed questions that may not be appropriate for a public meeting, we can do that. We can get through the rest of our business.
Unless Bill can answer those questions, then.
Well,
I'd like
Does have a
him here,
7-hour drive.
I'd like him here only so much as I have been, okay, the first go around, I wasn't involved with, that went under. This, I think we have
You don't have to explain, you
dollars
said
and
you want to
cents,
hear.
I'd like you to
Yes.
hear,
Yes, thank you.
so, and I want him to say yes
Thank you.
to those, so.
Okay. So, I'll look.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We go into executive session, the chair, I'll come to you.
Well, it's also a public meeting.
He can stay in here if he'd like.
Yes, we can say yes. But right now,
Yeah, I guess, okay.
however, I would like to change the order of our agenda
Yep.
and enter into a short executive session, and then to come back and continue with the rest of
All
our
right, that
agenda.
makes sense.
Sure.
May I have a motion to enter into executive session to
So
discuss
moved.
personnel issues? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now going to enter a short executive session.
Zorro.
Can I have a motion to resume regular session?
So moved.
Second?
So that's too much.
All in
We might get
favor?
that going.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now in regular session. I'd like to change the agenda one more time, and go down to chairperson's report. The last year has seen growth and progress here at the port. Acting Executive Director Bill Scriber has been an important and integral part of that growth. Over this past year, he has shown the board that he is willing to accept a challenge and deal with unexpected situations. His accomplishments have provided both stability and growth. We are ready to move forward. The port has an active, involved board, and we feel confident that Bill can and will work with us to achieve our vision of an active, evolving center of economic progress for Oswego and surrounding communities. That being said, I would like to propose a motion. Linda, would you read that, please?
Motion that the reference to the title of interim and/or acting director and William Scriber's title be
No,
removed.
I'm sorry, just the interim or acting,
Interim and/or acting
interim and or acting be removed, but not interim and or acting director.
director.
We're removing the interim and or the acting, depending on whether it's our terminology or this is.
Correct.
Sorry.
Okay. Reference that the, being resolved that the reference to the title of interim and/or acting director.
No, 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 you can't
Just-
say director.
Keep director out
Yeah,
now?
can I do it?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have the paper?
We're referring now.
I'm just going to read the
Oh.
motion, I am not making the motion because that
Okay.
wasn't your intent. So be it resolved that the reference to interim and/or acting relative to the title of William Scriber be removed, effectively making him the Executive Director of the Board of Authority. And that Mr. Scriber shall engage with the Board of Directors
The terms and
the
conditions.
terms and conditions of his employment. That's
May I have a
the
motion?
resolution.
I'll make a motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Congratulations, Bill.
Thank you.
They run over here. Professor, thank you. Madam Chairman, thank you. I'll just sneak behind you
All
right.
right.
I won't make a speech because it's a short meeting. I'll try to uphold and live to your expectations and move the court forward together with all your help and guidance, so.
Yes, well,
Sounds
Amy's, the chairman's words were well spoken. Right.
Thank you. That is all for my report.
And reflect that of the board, I think.
Yeah. Good. Bill, this puts you up with administrative and operational report.
I don't know, after that, Dave, I don't wanna have a report tonight.
It's not a bad move.
Okay, just really briefly, we had 2 grain ships, Purdue Agribusiness email I sent to everyone, they're very ecstatic. We look to increase that next year. I attended the H2O conference with your chairman and your vice chairman. I won't go into details unless they wanted to, it was a very good event. Made a lot of good contacts, got a lot of good information. I had a meeting with Fran, with Brian Stratton. He was in town for the development of the old Flexo wire plant. As many of you probably know, the Canal Corporation was basically for Oswego, our property, some of theirs. We discussed some possible future development plans with him. It was kind of just a meet and greet, as they've been an integral part of our waterway system here. And at the end, I hate to say it, but I need an executive session to go over ILA negotiations with all of you. And with that, I'll just end my report.
Thank you. Moving on to administrative financial reports. The motion is to accept the October primary financial reports, Exhibit C1. May I have a motion for that, please?
I'll move that.
Second? Any questions regarding that report?
In the interest of time, nothing. No, they really, everything that reflected makes sense relative to my understanding of the movement, and, you know, it's positive income over prior period, and positive cash flow over prior period, and very reflective of the letter you read earlier.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion 112-03-1803 to accept the October subsidiary financial reports, Exhibit C2. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions?
Yeah, I've got just a few I'd like to bring up. I see we use Time Warner for the Marina Internet. Also, we have a bill for Windstream. And also, I think there was one more involved there. Is there any possibility of maybe looking into it and finding out if we can stick with one company and maybe get the best deal?
We're actually in the process of moving over. The one bill was the Windstream and Time Warner. Time Warner is the internet. We're getting out of Windstream and going into Spectrum. We just put a new phone system in, which is saving us over $700 per month. So that's why we're in a phase out period, going from one company to the other. We're actually going to save money overall, but the marina, as far as their internet, is so to speak, in that plan for next year, to bring that also under that umbrella. So we are kind of doing that, but it takes a little while to do it completely.
Okay, if we, well, I'll table that what I had in my head here just a minute. Also, adding up all the bills for Glider, we've come up with a total of $18,979 worth of gas or whatever they supplied with us. Will this be included in, remember I asked for an audit of the performance of the marina this year, and you said you could get that for me? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, these are pass-throughs. We buy the gas and diesel.
Wait. I'm the audit committee chair. I wasn't aware of a request for a separate audit. Are you asking for the engagement of Bowers and Company to conduct an audit of that part of the business, and is that not fully within the consolidated financials?
So the marina will be audited?
No, I'm asking what your request is. I wasn't aware of it.
He wanted, what he asked for me is, is what the sales were and the revenue was of the marina.
I'd like to see the performance
That's
of
all.
Oh, okay,
Marina.
okay, I'm sorry, you
Yeah.
use the term audit.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
say audit, I'm the audit committee chair.
I
Audit's
apologize.
a specific function under my.
He just wanted to know
responsibility.
revenue and
Okay.
expenses.
Gotcha.
We'll do it
At the
in-house.
marina.
Yeah, no,
If
no,
it
no.
looks, smells.
You're looking for a review.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, basically.
Okay, and as I explained to
None
Ken,
of us have the capability of
we
conducting.
don't hold diesel and gas. It's purchased to resell at the marina. The only thing we don't resell, of course, is our diesel here and our propane. So that's all that we would have as an expense of operations.
My third item that I wanted to approach was the bills for Mr. Shark Welding and Repair Service. We got a total of, on the AP aging summary, we've got $8,590. And I see through the impress fund, we paid $33.80. That's $12,970. And can you give me an idea of what that amount was for?
We have the individual bills, I can share them with you. I can't give you every minute, but
What's
They're
the
items.
major part? Was that the marina?
Marina, at that period of time, was putting up the gin pole and getting it operational, which is bringing us cash back in we normally didn't have. Next part was, a major one, was our scale. It had to be put up to certification, or the county would not certify it. It's one of our two scales, our only truck scale.
So it got certified, okay?
Yes, it's up and operational, the county would not certify it, and the only way we could actually repair it in a way that actually reduced cost and gave us a better long-term use of it is that we poured a concrete amount of surface on it, and then we put sheet metal on top of it and welded it. That is a fix that will last us as long as
We're selling
we're
gas.
gonna worry about that, so.
Okay, that's fine, that satisfies whatever questions I had. In the accounts payable, we had Rebel Oil and Construction, $10,725, was that for trucking?
That's a pass-through, that's trucking.
Okay.
Okay.
Steel sales, $6,800 worth of material for the marina, or what was that?
Steel sales was for the decking on the scales.
On the
And that was a
scales.
WBE, which of course is a state agency. We are encouraged to purchase that.
And accounts receivable, I see so many asterisks on it that,
I think only number 5, Ken, was one that might, one delve as to whether or not that's a concern or not.
what was that?
Footnote number 5 is the one that I would have just picked out to say, is that a concern?
Oh, yeah, yes, I agree. The sent past due notice awaiting response
Yes.
on Lehigh.
I don't know that we need to.
Well, that's one of those issues that we have on Lehigh. We need to move forward on that lease.
Okay.
And there was a new rate structure that was very favorable to us. I have not been able to pursue that, and I need to pursue that. So that can be cleared up very quickly.
There was holding, awaiting
Yeah, I mean,
resolution of lease arrangement.
right, yes, and new
And
rate
using
structure.
that factor, okay.
Do you see anything else, Tom?
That, and not a.
Well, there's one I'll point out, the Lower Lakes towing was paid also, that was $2,430. That was in 61 and 90 days, that's been paid.
Who was that for?
So it would be my
Lower
preference,
Lakes towing,
Okay.
it
limited.
would be my preference that, you relate to them that, failure to pay outstanding, bill services as a tactic under a, negotiation of further lease is not a great tactic. I'm speaking for the board, but I don't think the board likes that tactically.
And also, there was also, some of that money was money they had owed us per the lease contract, not being on minimum payment, and they didn't make those, so that's all mixed into that.
All contract negotiations, are best conducted in good faith.
Oh, I understand, I agree with you.
Bill, I'd like to tell you that my personal observation here, I'm seeing fewer and fewer minus signs, and that makes me feel a lot better.
Is there anything else?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to committee reports. There's no report from the executive committee, audit and finance.
No report. Can I review again the composition of the executive committee? Sorry.
That would be me, Ken, you. Governance.
Just a brief report. Bill had contacted me and the committee a few weeks ago about information on Casteloop, and we decided to invite them to this meeting rather than just have the committee hear them and then we give our report, to have you come and report to the whole board.
Thank you. Jerry's also on that committee.
Yeah, I'd say that, okay. I was pretty sure Jerry, I wasn't sure of me, okay?
Planning and development.
I'm embarrassed to say.
Nothing? Okay, attorney's report?
Can I, where are you on the?
We're on old business.
Page 2, old business.
Okay, can I push something out in old business?
Sure.
And I see that we have representatives of the Marine Museum here. I became aware of correspondence that came from us relative to the Marine Museum. It's my view that based upon the longevity of the partnership between the Fort and the Marine Museum, that was a poorly worded and ill-conceived letter relative to, what each organization may or may not be seeking to do strategically. So I'm not comfortable with that language used. I would not have done it that way. I'm making that as a statement. I know I expressed that to you,
Yes, you did.
and I wanted to just express that on record.
Thank you.
I found it egregious.
Okay. New business. Motion 12-03-1804 to authorize Oswego Harbor Festivals, Inc. the use of the parking lot owned by the Port of Oswego Authority on West First Street for the 2019 Harbor Fest Midway from July 19 through July 29. Are those the dates? That's being set up in.
Will that interfere with any construction on the west there?
Not at the moment.
Oswego Harbor Festivals, Inc. will provide the Port of Oswego Authority with all necessary documents and insurance forms prior to use of the property. And that's Exhibit D. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I had a question.
Okay. Would you like to second
then
before
second it.
you
We
ask
need
your
a second
question?
and then the question.
Okay, I can second that.
Okay.
But the question again goes back to the insurance. Are we gonna run this through our?
Yes, I talked to John Fitzgibbons as I was asked to in the last meeting, and John is going to review the insurance prior to them occupying the site to ensure that we are insured in the appropriate levels and the appropriate items to not allow us to have any liability.
Right.
Okay.
So it's not a question of whether or not we have it or we don't have it, it's just a question of the amounts?
Yes.
It's
we're
not gonna
covered.
be, they're gonna be their insurance is to name us as an additional insured on the policy. And
Okay.
their policy is gonna be reviewed by John to ensure the appropriate insurance is in their policy to cover us. That was the question
Yes.
from last
I
meeting.
think,
So that shouldn't hold up
I
the
don't think
vote
that
on the
you
motion?
can say that we have no risk.
No, because that's
No,
included in the
managed
motion.
Yeah.
Okay,
Managed it.
okay.
All
To
necessary.
the maximum amount we should.
So we do have a second.
We do have a second.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are going into executive session again.
Motion, well, I won't use the number, motion to enter into executive session for purposes of discussing ILA contract negotiations and personnel matters. And then we further had the request to talk about contractual matters relating to the Castello proposal.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are going into executive session. Thank you.
Sorry.
Asked me to provide some information.
Okay, so you had a request to make a report to the board?
Well, I said I would provide information that he requested, and I did say I would bring that
In
tonight.
open session of the board.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
I'm just trying to go with protocol here. Mr.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah, otherwise you should, you know, it has to be on the agenda.
Right,
So it's now up to the chair.
right.
We can resume public session again if you would like to do that publicly. Would you rather do that in executive session? Fran?
Could I just suggest we go into executive session first,
All right,
and then after we go up and suggest, executive session, then you can decide whether or not,
Okay.
with, Mercedes.
Wait for it.
okay,
Yeah.
we'll do that then.
I'd just like to take care of.
Yeah, if you
Philip
would like
first.
to
Yeah.
stay and talk to us first, and then you can leave.
Because it's
before we
trying
go.
to-
contractual,
Yeah.
contractual
I did
agreement,
notify
and I
people
don't
ahead of
want
time.
an open
Yeah. Yep.
meetings, obviously.
I have a motion to come out of executive
You
session.
broke my
I'll make that
statute,
motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
I'm sorry, motion to adjourn what?
Our
aren't
meeting.
we gonna,
There was,
no, we
there
have
was
to
gonna
put
be
it on the
one,
record first.
there was gonna be one action that Jerry was going to request a meeting. We were going to agree to it, right?
Jerry, would you like to do that?
I guess,
For the record.
for the record, we're going to participate in a meeting to straighten out some of the misunderstandings and try to comply with what your request will be, Mercedes, and
Thank you.
it's agreement with our board, so I will
We'd like to reset communication.
reset the whole picture,
Wonderful.
okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Now I move to adjourn.
So moved.
I moved, second.
Second.
All in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye.